Thanks very much for tuning in to News9. You're watching Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal, and I'm taking you through news from India and across the globe. I'll start with our top story on Deep Dive tonight. We will get you through the demand that's now being made by Loco pilots, those who ply our trains, the Indian Railways, which is known to be the best network in the world and the largest. You have Loco pilots who are anchoring those trains, feeling stressed, fatigued, tired, overworked. They say the rules that have been implemented for the aviation industry, for airline pilots, similar rules, rostering, should be also implemented for the railways so that Loco pilots are well rested and millions of passengers are safe. We'll take you through those pros and cons as the Indigo crisis meltdown continues. I'm going to also take you through in our deep dive segment today on Trump now deciding to completely ban birthright citizenship. That puts millions of Indians who are currently in the United States, their future, a big question, whether their children who are going to be born there in the United States, whether or not they will get citizenship. What's going to be their future? We take you through all of that and our top story on Day to Night on how the Delhi High Court has slammed Indigo Airlines and also raised questions against the aviation ministry, asking how heavy prices, steep prices were allowed while there was a crisis happening. Airlines really minted money by charging exorbitant fares to passengers. How is this allowed? I'm taking you through those details. As always, I start with the headlines. Right. Let's take you through this story that's a discussion that was long due to be had. Now, the recent operational meltdown in India's aviation sector has sparked quite a debate on crew fatigue. While airlines is severely struggling to comply with the new rules, this has also at the same time acted as a wake-up call for the country's most vital transport network, and that's the Indian Railways. After we saw what went down with the aviation industry with Indigo's meltdown, and rightly so, there were rostering rules that were put in place to ensure that pilots are not overworked and stressed and they're not putting passengers' lives at risk. Now you have the Indian Railways demanding a similar rostering system. The spotlight on airline flight duty time limits, FDTL, has compelled now for Loco pilots to ask a very urgent question. Our exhausted crews driving India's 22,000 daily trains, when will their safety norms be modernized and prioritized? Now, Loco pilots say if this rule was implemented with the aviation, it must and urgently be implemented with the railways as well. The human element remains quite a major factor in rail safety. National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB data, indicates that dozens of railway accidents in 2023 were directly attributed to driver fault. The severe Balasore tragedy in 2023, for instance, involved lapses rooted in complex human and system failures, highlighting the need for peak alertness at all times. The 6-decade-old rule book governing the duty hours of the Loco pilots is fossil, dating back to 1960s. The official limit is 10 hours, but on the ground, this is routinely violated. Drivers, in fact, Loco pilots, are usually logging off after 12 to 14 hours of work. When these rules were set, the traffic density at that point, the speed, the network load, were all incomparable to what we see today. It's very complex today, high-pressure environment. In fact, most of India relies on the railways. The allowance for exceptional circumstances to extend duty, well, due to critical staff shortage, which I could tell you is nearly 11,000 Loco pilot vacancies are yet to be filled. So because of this, these kind of vacancies, such huge vacancies, you have Loco pilots filling in for these empty slots and they're overworking. That's now become a daily, everyday reality, which was supposed to be a one-off instance where you're overworking. Most Loco pilots claim that they are stressed and overworked almost every day, severely stretching the rosters. The vicious cycle of fatigue now is visible and glaring, grueling cycle that does not stop when the train does. Loco pilots on long freight runs often report waiting 6 to 10 hours just for rest or accommodation. That's worse. As much as they're working, they don't even have a place to properly rest. We hear that many of their, wherever they want to rest, their guest houses are busy and are fully they're either overcrowded priorly, they're booked in prior, they find it hard to get an accommodation at that point when they stop after several hours of driving the train, and they're denied adequate rest as well. So before the next run, they're barely rested. That is what's really glaring at this point. This stands in stark contrast if we see in compared to countries in the Europe, in Japan, United States. Crew duty typically, very rarely in fact, exceed 8 to 9 hours. But here in India, they're working 14, 16 hours. A warning that's been repeatedly ignored. This is a failure of sustained reform. In 2012, the highly influential Kakodkar Safety Committee issued a critical warning as well. Long working hours were a major safety hazard. The committee stated that fatigue directly affects judgment, signal interpretation, and braking response, the tiny decisions that separate a normal journey from a collision. Despite this decades-old observation, and a high-level panel as well that asked for scientific rostering and rational duty hours, it hasn't been implemented. Well, this demand now is growing louder. India's Loco pilots are united in this, and they want fundamental safety for themselves and passengers. They want enforceable laws now, a clear 8-hour cap on duty hours. They're calling for a move towards a scientific fatigue risk management system, that's FRMS. Now, this is more than workers' demand. It's also passenger safety mandate. Millions rely on the Indian Railways, and they must be secured. All right, let me take you through our guest joining us for a little more to tell us more on Indian Railways, its safety, and whether or not these calls are fair. We have Shubhranshu, former Executive Director, Crew Policy, Railway Ministry and Chief Administrative Officer, Rail Wheel Plant, Bela. Thanks very much, sir. We have Sameer Zaveri, Railway Passenger Safety and Security Activist, and Professor Bijan Mishra, Consumer Policy Expert. Let me start with Shubhranshu. Sir, your take on this. We're seeing Indian Railways that are still governed by a 1960s duty hour rule book. While we've seen recently many accidents that have happened in the recent past. I'm not attributing everything to pilot fatigue, but you know, you can't turn a blind eye to this. We hear the Balasore incident was also attributed part to system failure and part on the part of the Loco pilot. Instances have been reported in the recent past, and it seems like Loco pilots now are using this opportunity, seeing the aviation crisis, demanding for the same for the railways, and it's only fair.
Okay, good evening. Whereas I cannot defend the vacancies in the drivers or Loco pilots cadre, the sanction strength of which is about 90,000. Railways have been very liberal in providing for surplus in this cadre. We have the bare yardstick of bare minimum plus 30% leave reserve. But 30% is not available in any other category. Normal leave reserve is about 12.5%. 30% is to take care of all absence of all types, leave, hospitalization, medical, unauthorized absence. You may never have heard of a train being cancelled because of a Loco pilot not being available. However, the Loco pilot's duty roster in Indian Railways is on a 15-day, a fortnight cycle. In a fortnight, they are allowed certain rests, minimum of 30 hours rest thrice a fortnight, or 22 hours 5 times a fortnight, with a night in bed in home. We have a cap of 9 hours in Indian Railways also, and the cap applies basically to the goods Loco pilots. Passenger and express Loco pilots have a typical duty cycle of only 6 to 8 hours before they are changed at a crew changing point. Now, why do Loco pilots work long hours? This is a concern for me also and for everybody in the railways, is because of goods trains when they run late, or passenger trains when they run late occasionally. So if a driver is allowed to, a Loco pilot is assigned a duty of 8 to 9 hours, and the train runs late by 4 hours, let's say, being stationed in between or delayed due to some reason, then duty hours do exceed. That's a matter of concern. The point is that we cannot change a crew on the way. It has to be changed at a crew changing point where a replacement crew is available. As regards, you said running room, restrooms are generally, almost all of them are air conditioned now. They have sufficient beds and clean linen and food.
Yeah.
Nearly free food available to them. Not only for eating in the running room, but also taking them on board. So drivers are looked after well. I am again not defending overwork. or extra hours, which needs to be taken care of at the local management level. We have a crew controller at various locations in the division who should take care of that, and they need to be trained partly. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
In Samir Zaveri on this. Samir Zaveri, is it clear that loco pilots are fatigued? I mean, this is their demand, that we are super stressed and tired, and you have a number of people who have come forward to say we want the same rules as the aviation has implemented. Yes, we see the Indigo crisis. They did not have forethought, did not plan it in advance, and did not implement it the way it should have. But if there is a year's advance given to the railways, do you believe it's more than important at this point, or rather urgent, for the railways also to implement something like this? We're seeing rising number of accidents with the railways, and I cannot surely say if it's all attributed to loco pilot failure or their fatigue or stress. You could give us a little sense on how stressed are loco pilots. You know, one imagines that they're sitting on a flat ground and it's going on a track. It's basically moving as per track. How important is a loco pilot's judgment while driving the train?
This is the omission on part of the government. That ministry is well aware the vacancies of hundreds of loco pilots, and because of the 24-hour trains are runs, the special trains during the festival time, and there are international law, universal law for 8 hours working hours. Okay, here loco pilots are working for 12 hours, 14 hours. This is the omissions, violations, and possibility of some untoward incidents. Because one train, hundreds of passengers travel. So government must, when we buy bullet train technology from Japan, so we must follow the universal law. We must protect each and every passenger, each and every citizens. And the passenger, there is no, as per my best knowledge, no real actual, not on paper. I am asking about the actual backup plan. For example, Indigo, we have seen hundreds of flights delay for 2 hours, 3 hours, they announced and finally they cancel. What happened? And other airlines also took advantage to make huge income. From Mumbai to Ahmedabad, the air ticket is 4,000. Because of this crisis, the ticket fare skyrockets, 60,000, 65,000. So these all are not acceptable. Government must take responsibility, must take immediate action. Should not wait for any disaster, should not wait for any such untoward incidents. And why opposition? See, when the government failing to do their duty, it is duty of opposition to highlight their issue. Why opposition is silent? Why they are not taking up the issues?
Okay, but tell me, why was the 2012 Kakodkar safety warning ignored? Why was it not translated into enforceable norms? Imagine 2012 to 2025, much over a decade, and the railway seems to be sitting on this. It's a safety hazard. Passengers' safety should be ideally priority. The Indian Railways is known to be the best, the largest network. So you've got to have double the effort to ensure, passengers are safe and loco pilots are safe. All of us, even government officials, are going to be riding on, or usually take trains. It's the best connectivity that one can ask for in India. So why was this 2012 Kakodkar safety warning ignored?
Okay.
Yes, we say in our country, chalta hai attitude. There are warnings. The government must comply with the safety officers' directions and guidelines.
I should answer that question.
Officers who ignore these guidelines must be dismissed from service. Why not implementation? Why waiting? Why chalta attitude for such a lakhs of passenger travel daily by Indian Railways? Thousands of passenger travels.
Can I answer that question? Because I know that business.
Yes, sir.
The Kakodkar committee's report has not been ignored. No driver, no loco pilot is ever booked for a 14-hour duty. As I told you, we have a maximum upper limit of 9 hours. In mail and express passenger, it is normally 6 to 8 hours maximum. So if the duty hours exceed, it is only in rare cases when the trains run late. and crew cannot be changed en route. They have to change only at the crew changing point where the train has to travel, even if it takes 3-4 hours extra. So Kakotkar committee report has not been ignored. I deposed before that committee when I was in Railway Ministry. I know that. I know the recommendations.
Okay.
I know the rules. So nothing has been ignored. Drivers, let me tell you, remember that when Indigo flights were cancelled, the railways came to the rescue. We ran special trains or special coaches in same existing trains to carry passengers. You may never have heard, I will say again, of a train being
Okay, sir.
cancelled for loss of crew.
We highly appreciate the railways and the effort you're putting. But what we're basically trying to highlight here is the loco pilots' demand. It's not coming from anywhere else. It's coming from the loco pilots
Correct.
themselves.
So,
They
yes, so
want
I'm not defending
safety
But
norms to
yes.
be implemented. They feel fatigued. They feel overworked. So
Yes.
what you may be saying is right, but also at the same time you acknowledged and agreed that there are 11,000 vacancies. That's the crux of the problem, and that was the crux of the problem even with the aviation.
But no, you mentioned 11,000. I don't have the current figures. However, please remember that we have 30% extra crew over and above the bare minimum, which airlines do not have. And that is the reason we are able to handle all festival rushes, all special trains, without a train being missed, without a train being stabled. So we have over-provided for drivers. We have ensured that drivers meet a roster of 9 hours or 7 hours on the passenger trains. In fact, on local suburban trains, which are very, very frequent and they meet a signal every few seconds, which is very tiring, the duty hours is only 6 hours. So we are very particular about in the railways about driver fatigue. However, as I mentioned repeatedly, that if a train runs late, and these occasions happen, especially with goods train, the drivers have to do extra hours. They are paid allowance for that. It's not that they're not paid allowance, but then again, fatigue is an issue in such cases. What to do? We can send a driver by a road vehicle to change at an intermediate station, but many stations are not accessible by road. So these are problems of a ground transport. Let me also tell you that a railway loco pilot's duty is far more taxing than an airline's pilot. He has to see a signal every few minutes. An airline's pilot can put his aircraft on autopilot and go and walk in the aisles. A driver cannot. A loco driver cannot. It's very, very. But the 60.
So then it's all the more important and incumbent on the Indian Railways to ensure that they are fully rested. It's all the more important that their judgment is clear. They're rested well. Yeah.
So no driver is put on the next train unless he has a minimum of 8-hour rest. He also has 30 hours rest every fortnight, 3 times in his home. Or he has 22 hours rest every fortnight in his home 5 times. We can attend to family functions, family requirements, and come back fully rested. There is no case where a driver finishes a journey of a few hours and then is put on another train. He has to mandatorily rest for 6 hours minimum. If it's a longer journey, then 8 hours, where he is given free food and rest in an air-conditioned running room. So drivers are looked after well. However, as I said, delays will happen. You do not have delays in the air. An aircraft will fall if there's a delay. But trains are delayed and trains are stabled on the line. So we cannot equal an airline's delay. Airlines delay are on the airport, not in the air. Whereas the train delay is on the way. There's no aircraft delay on the way. So this is an issue that concerns all of us. What is required is...
Sir, could you explain to us if at all you're given 8, loco pilots are given 8 hours for rest before the next journey. How many days in a week are they supposed to be working? What kind of...
They're supposed to be working about...
How many journeys can they or should they take in a week?
No, they're supposed to be working 110 or 115 hours in a fortnight. And in the same fortnight, they should have 30 into 3 hours or 22 into 5 rests. For every train that they terminate, that they finish train journey, they are given at least 6 hours of rest if the train journey is less than 8 hours. Or if it's more than 8 hours, they're given at least 8 hours of rest. A rest in bed, in a running room, with nearly free food and air conditioned comfort. So it's not that they are treated badly; they are treated very well. However, the delays which happen due to late running of train requires to be handled sympathetically. I totally agree. How it will be done is up to the current railway management. Maybe we can transport crew by road or by another train, provided we know where the trains can meet and exchange crew. Yes,
let me also bring in Mr. Zaveri. He wanted to make a counterpoint on that. Mr. Zaveri, would you be able to tell us what you think of the rest hours, 8 hours before? 8 hours before the next journey, so that's a amount of time that's given to the loco pilots to actually move forward with an AC cabin, with a bed, free food, all access that they need. Give us your counterpoint before I go to Bijan Mishra.
Yes. My counter is very simple, 3 points. One, government must fill the vacancy as early as possible. Number one. Number two, for example, sir said that in Mumbai suburban, I stay in Mumbai, the working hours, as per rule, 6 hours. But I think the local motormen work almost uh, more than working hours time. They get extra payment for that overtime. So why not you uh, engage more people? In government job, we have seen for 1,000 requirement, there are 10 lakh applications. So our Indian people want to serve the government. So you welcome. You fill the vacancies. You increase the strength as per today's requirement. That's all.
All right. Mr. Bijan, would you want to come in on your views on consumer rights? Do passengers have the right to ask or demand for safety when it comes to their rail ride? Can passengers really push? And do they have legal rights to demand fatigue-free, well-rested train crew? As a passenger, I want to ensure that my ride is going to be safe, and can I demand a fatigue-free pilot? Yeah.
The passengers look for 8 very important expectations from any service provider for that matter. Number one is standard. We must know what is that standard railway is following to ensure that there is no compromise on safety of the passenger and comfort of the passengers. So there should be some kind of a standard which must be mandated so that when we buy a ticket to travel, we know that whatever they have promised us, they're delivering that. So our safety is not compromised, and the people who are looking after us on behalf of the railways are well taken care as per standard. So that's the most important thing. The second thing the passengers always look for, or any consumer looks for, is transparency. You see, we need to know, we need to have the information that how long this pilot who has been driving me, taking me from one destination to other, what's his name, how long he's traveled. All this information should be made public so that we all know where is his changing station, who takes over from him, so that whatever my panel member has explained to us, we all believe that they are following it. So we have to have transparency, we have to have accountability. Like if supposing, somebody is not doing their job properly, and as we all know, the railways is highly unionized. It's highly politicized also. A lot of trade unions are working within the railways. So we also have to understand how to navigate with their demands, what kind of a demand it is. It could be a politically motivated demand. So we have to understand all that. And we have to ensure that there is no compromise on quality. There is no compromise in terms of taking care of the passengers' amenities. And there has to be a good feedback mechanism. I have been a member of the Zonal Railway Users Consultative Committee, Divisional Railway Users Consultative Committee. I've attended so many meetings, but they're all very politicized meetings. They don't talk business most of the time. And unfortunately, these kind of data discussion, which you have brought on the conversation this evening, it should be discussed in the Users Consultative Committee meetings. There should be data. And we just can't get away saying, oh, employment honi chahiye. We all know employment honi chahiye, but at what cost? We also have to understand that. As we have just now heard that the railways have recruited 30% more than what the standard requirement is. So if they have taken 30% more, that means they're bleeding somewhere in terms of, engaging more number of people who are unproductive, who are not productive. So we have to understand whether we will engage productive labor or unproductive labor. So we all have to become very accountable. But I must tell you, Indian Railways is one of the best in the world. The services rendered by them is uncomparable. We have traveled all over the world. We have seen, and look at the volume they manage, the volume of people they manage, and from remote locations. And you must also appreciate that whenever there is a huge demand, there's a spurt, they immediately put extra special trains into action during festival times, during emergency, and things like that. But of course, I am not trying to say that we shouldn't ensure that the travel should be safe. We should be zero tolerance on accidents. We have to ensure that accidents should not occur. All the employees are well taken care as per as what has been promised. So all this needs to be made very transparent, and I'm sure railways are working towards that. You can see the change within the attitude of the railway employees towards the passengers. There's a huge change compared to what I was experiencing 20 years back. Today, you can get, excellent meal on the train. You can get, it's very hygienic. The cleanliness is very good inside the compartment. It's well taken care. So all these amenities are there. But of course, as our debate, don't compare with airlines, because airlines is a private operated activity, whereas railways is a activity operated by the government. It is taxpayers' money which is subsidized. Taxpayers' money is being given to the railways to manage it. So we must understand that it is not working for profit. So Nabila, my contention is, let's not compare with what is happening in Indigo and all. Railways are doing an excellent job. Yes, if there is a demand, we must see that it is not a political demand. It should be a political demand. It's not made by some group of political people who are trying to destabilize the growth which is going on. So we should avoid all that. What we should look at is genuinely, if somebody is being overworked, genuinely that person is being pushed into fatigueness, into unsafe conditions, then we have to take care of such employees also. So we have to make sure that they are not overworked. And that's why I'm saying, bring transparency so that nobody challenges it. And whatever my panel member has mentioned about what he has been with the railways, he knows exactly all the data. Let's make it public. Why only on the television show? It should be on the website of the Indian Railways. In terms of all the analysis which is being done.
Yeah.
Like we have an excellent tool called Rail Mother.
Yeah, I think a little transparency from the Indian Railways. In fact, they should be obligated to disclose whether crew schedules comply with safety norms. I think that's what should be the next step forward. More transparency needed in that space.
Can I have
absolutely.
a remark on this?
Nabila, that's the way forward, and I'm sure this conversation would have been heard by the people who matter within the railways, and they will take some of these suggestions on board and take it forward. This was a very constructive conversation, and I'm sure, people who matter are listening to it, and they will take cognizance of this conversation and bring in those changes where there will be no kind of an opportunity for anybody to question that anybody is being made to overwork or is working beyond stipulated working hours and not been given that rest which is required. So I'm quite sure, if there are any kind of a fault, then it will get rectified and we will be able to get safe travel for the passengers, which the railways have committed, that they are, always alert about it and they don't compromise on any kind of an issue which is concerning safety.
Okay.
All
right. I think we've had a wholesome talk on this. Yes, please, Subhranshu.
See, I'm now retired 2.5 years ago, but I can certify with full confidence that every crew that runs your train starts fully rested and fully fed and in full energy. I can certify that here on this public forum. All passenger train, express trains are around 7 hours of duty, not more than that. Goods train drivers have 9 hours of duty specified, and which may occasionally exceed. And late running of trains, I already explained. Vacancy is not the cause of fatigue or overwork. It is the late running of trains or unscheduled stoppages and all that. As I said, 30% excess. Our requirement is only 65,000, and we have 90,000 sanctioned. So 11,000 is not much. It should be filled up. I totally agree, but it will never be 100% full.
So, Nabila,
Mr. Mishra wants to make a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that instead of patting our own back, there should be third-party audit done. There should be neutral people, unbiased people from external sources who should be engaged to do audits and come in public domain.
Now, sir. I'm third party now. I'm an outsider.
No, I'm saying that
absolutely. Mr. Shubhranshu just knows the insides of it, and I don't think Mr. Bijan Mishra is pointing at you, sir. He's saying that overall, if there was a 2012 report, a committee that was studying this, I think there should be a 2025 at the earliest. Actually, another 20 days we are over with this month. Maybe 2026. There should be another committee possibly getting into the bottom of this and coming up with a report that ideally should be followed and implemented. But that's all I have time for, gentlemen. I really appreciate all of you joining us. Thank you. I'm going to slip into a short break. We'll be right back on the other side on Donald Trump now banning citizenship for those born in the United States. Natural citizenship will no more be given. Stay with us for a lot more.